Do you have JOMO? Do you even know what that is? I didn't. Before I talk to our guest for this episode, Emily Merrell, founder of 6 Society and business coach. We're talking all about changes in entrepreneurship and being patient even during growth and new adventures like babies. Make sure you have a listen if you are truly wanting to find a way to get more boundaries in your life and find some calm in your storm. All right, let's get to it.
Welcome to the Flourishing Entrepreneur Podcast with Alea Harris. This is the place where you and your fellow empire-building entrepreneurs come to vanquish the burnout monster and boost your glow and cash flow with energy alignment techniques and tried and true marketing strategies. Since 7 figures won't get itself, hit that subscribe button and never miss out on your chance to skyrocket profits, tap into your intuition, and manifest your dreams. And now, your host, Powerhouse Story Brand Certified Guide, award-winning marketer, bioenergetic business coach, and Japanese whiskey lover, Alea Harris.
Today we're talking about boundaries, and often we don't put boundaries in place because we don't trust ourselves, and we're not trusting that the universe and that everything will work out exactly as it's supposed to. So we allow people to push forward and be habitual line steppers over the lines that we barely even have drawn in pencil in front of us. So Emily Merrell, our guest today, is going to talk a little bit about boundaries and a lot of bit about networking and relationships and how to have better boundaries in those relationships. As we lean into that conversation, I want you to keep this mantra in mind. I protect my energy and light because I am worth it. Again, the mantra is I protect my energy and light because I am worth it. Say it with me. I protect my energy and light because I am worth it. If you repeat that over and over to yourself, if you struggle with having boundaries and healthy boundaries, it could be just a little encouragement you need on the inside to help you make better boundaries on the outside. Boundaries, like I said again, are often highly related to trust. And when you're talking about trust, it often is I don't have a good image of where I'm going. So how am I going to know where my boundaries should be? Because I kind of need and want to do all the things and interact with all the people at all the times and let them tell me where I should be going because I don't have good goals in place. And this is true whether it's in your personal life or your professional life. And often that means that you are not doing proper goal setting. So, the recalibration strategy that I would encourage you to do today is to do goal setting for abundance. You're going to ask yourself some questions in order to set your goals and then revisit them daily. Some of the questions you should ask are: what is my vision for my life and business? Why do I work so hard? What is it all for? What are my personal and professional short-term goals? And I like to do short-term goals as 0 to 6 months, 6 to 12 months, and 12 months plus. And then everything after that are your long-term goals. And what are they? And when you're writing your personal and professional goals, don't compartmentalize. So for example, if you are wanting to buy a house and you own your own business, well, then make sure that the revenue that you have set as your goal allows you to buy that house. Make sure that you are allowing your life and your business to support each other. One of the most important questions you can ask as you're goal setting, trying to find your way, is how might I unintentionally sabotage my growth process? Now, you're not going to say, oh, yeah, I'm going to go just blow a hole in my own boat and sink. That's what I'm going to do on a Tuesday. No, that's not the thought, but often we know our repetitive patterns when we're afraid, when we're unsure. We do things that don't always make the most sense. So bring that to the forefront ask yourself, how might you unintentionally sabotage your growth? And it could even be that you might unintentionally sabotage your growth by denying your own greatness. It could be that you allow someone to speak into your life and your business that will throw you off track. Know that about you so that you can set up that boundary. Another great question to ask yourself is, what beliefs are holding me back from meeting my personal and professional goals? And what have I tried so far that hasn't worked? So, those are all examples of questions that you can use to set up your goals and allow yourself to be able to set boundaries. Because if you don't know where you're going, you don't know where you are, you can allow the wind to blow and throw you farther off course than you ever really thought was possible. Make sure you write down those goals and get really clear on what they are. It could be narrowing down to the number of clients and the average contract size per month. So if one of your goal is to hit 1 million in annual revenue, that would mean you would need to book 100 clients with an average contract of $10,000 each, which leaves you with a goal of 9-ish new clients per month to get to your revenue of $1 million. Break it down, make it real, chunk it out, make it into steps. So you know, hey, someone's telling you that, oh, you don't need 9 clients, you only need 2, and you need to do this and you need to do that. And you're like, no, I'm going to set a boundary here because I am very clear on what I want and where I'm going and what I need to do to get there. You also want to write the feelings of what it would feel like to accomplish that goals in your journal. And you want to go beyond, oh, it would be good, or I'd feel happy, and stretch to ideals like I'll feel safe and fulfilled, and paint that image and paint that picture. Emily, I asked her our journal question of the day, which is, what would my life and business look like if I trusted completely? And she says a really cool thing in this episode that allows you to be transported into her full vision of what her future could look like. And I love it. I can't wait for you to hear it for yourself. So, again, boundaries are rooted in trust and also a sense that you know who you are and where you're growing so you can stay on track and only allow things into your life and your energy that keep you moving in the direction that you want to go. Okay, now that you are ready and you're recalibrated and we're ready to set those boundaries and to build relationships that are positive for our life, let's dive into talking to Emily. Hi, everybody, and welcome to this episode of the Flourishing Entrepreneur Podcast. I am your host, Alea Harris, and I have the joy and pleasure of being joined by Emily Merrell. She is the founder of 6 Degrees Society, which I stumbled into, and now she'll never be able to kick me out of. And she is also a business coach. Thank you so much for being here with us, Emily.
Oh my gosh, I hope you never leave, by the way, because we love you so much. But thank you so much for having me here. It's so fun to see your smiling, beautiful face.
Absolutely. Why, thank you. Why, thank you. If you had to say, like, in a quick couple of words or sentences, what is the problem that you saw? Like, what is it that you do? What would that be?
Yeah, the problem that I solve is I help make networking fun and approachable and take the guesswork out of it. So you never, well, that was more than a couple of words. Gosh.
That's okay. I said or sentences, a couple words or sentences.
Sentences. Never go to an event again where you feel like anyone's a stranger.
I love it. And you actually, I will say, accomplished that really well. I really enjoy 6 Degree Society's virtual events. I've never been to an in-person one because, the Rona. But
Yeah,
I love
small little
the
global pandemic.
global pandemic. I love 6 Degree Society events because they always start off with, she has a round robin, everybody intros themselves and like who they are, what they do, and like a cute little fun fact. Then you go in and then you have 15 minutes of undivided one-on-one time with real a real human, another woman that you can actually connect with, and you've gotten their bio in advance, so it takes away that awkwardness of like, who are you, what are we going to talk about? She matches you really well. I love it. I made some genuine connections. I've gotten some clients from 6 Degrees Society, making some money, making some friends, all of the above. So thank you, Emily.
That makes me so happy. I feel like it's always funny when people are like, "Well, what's the purpose of it?" And I'm like, I've had people travel to Thailand together and become become best friends, and I've had people hire their business coaches or become co-founders or find clients or be a client. It's weird sometimes even for me to pinpoint what the purpose is because the journey is so unique to each individual.
Absolutely, and that's what it all boils down to. Like, I'm a marketer, right? I'm a coach, a marketer, but it's all about relationships. That's how anything ever happens. So if you facilitate those relationships more effectively, which you do, you're helping everybody in all areas of their life, which I love.
Exactly, and a lot of people don't recognize they feel like they meet someone and they have to, like, do business with them right away, and yet there's
No.
which we don't like those people, sorry if you're that person, anyone who's listening, but it's like dating. It's like if you ask someone to marry them on the first date, you would probably block that person and call, like, a policeman or something and
Yeah,
ask for a restraining order.
yeah,
Uh
pepper spray them and run, like,
Yeah.
it's a bit
Yeah,
much.
there's, like, something about being pursued and learned about as a human first, and then if the relationship is cultivated and developed into something more, then doing business together makes sense, but, like, you don't jump into bed right off the bat.
No. I mean, if you do, more power to
Yeah, I'm
you,
like, "Good for you, too."
but
You know
you
what you
probably
want, good
don't
for
get
you.
married on the first day, that's for sure. That's
Exactly.
an emotional commitment.
Unless you're in Vegas, and then that's a whole different
Unless you're in
ballgame.
Vegas. Okay, 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 I guess there's
Yeah.
always exceptions to the rule. But, like, unless what would unless? In general.
Exactly.
So I want to dive in. I have some set questions that I think will help tease out some of your brilliance for the listeners here. And the first question I have is, what techniques or tools do you use to avoid burnout and stay in alignment personally and professionally?
Okay, I'm just laughing because how many days am I postpartum now?
Oh, yeah, we forgot to mention your biggest, newest venture is having a baby. She has a newborn. How old is your son? Is he even a
10
week old?
days. 10 days. Yeah, he's a
10
little
days.
over.
He's 2 whole weeks old.
Yeah, almost 2 whole weeks. So, no, but it's such a good question, and I would say boundaries, truthfully, but it's ironic because boundaries definitely are fluid and something that changes, and, I when I planned my maternity leave, my son ended up coming 3 weeks early, so he definitely, arrived a little bit before I was really ready to say goodbye to my business for a 3-month period. But at the same time, it's also knowing yourself, like, you were so dear and you reached out and you're like, "Do you even wanna do this? Like, does this make sense for you?" And it did, and it does, and it's something that lights me up, and it gives me joy, and it gives me purpose, and knowing myself, if I felt like I couldn't handle it or didn't have the capacity to, like, knowing that I could communicate properly to you that this isn't the right time for
Yeah.
me. But I do think that really helps with burnout. I I find that for me, it's, like, really honoring my weekends and honoring not responding to people on weekends. Actually, I kind of got a little pissed off this weekend because I saw a phone call from a member, and I ignored it because 'cause I'm not
Yeah.
gonna pick up the phone from pretty much anyone on the weekend unless
Yeah,
it's, like,
yeah.
family related.
You're like, especially because, just had a baby.
Just had a baby, and I messaged her, like, a day or 2 later and said, "I missed your call. What's it about?" And she's like, "Oh, I wanted to get an event on the calendar for January." And I was, like, about to shake my phone and be like, "That is just not a boundary at all that you were calling me on a Sunday when you know I just had a kid to do something that's very unimportant for anyone on a Sunday," and it could be an
Right.
email.
And don't
So
you have an email address? I mean,
I
doesn't your team have an email address that you could email?
There's just emails. So back to boundaries, it's also respecting other people's boundaries just as much. I'm not most likely going to just call you out of the blue. I would probably even text you first or email you
Yeah.
and be like, "Hey, is this a good time for you?" Before just I find that, we're so interconnected and we're so connected nowadays. It's just checking and respecting when we can kind of like tune into someone's life or tap into someone's life. So, long story long, I like to respect people's boundaries, but also for me, I honor my own boundaries where I really believe that nothing is an emergency. Like
Yeah.
we created our own businesses. Like we're not giving life-saving advice 24/7, although it feels like it
It feels
sometimes.
like that, but you're right. There's no one's bleeding, everyone's breathing. So, at the end of the day, Is it truly, really, truly an emergency? I totally feel you, and that's a boundary in and of itself, realizing, like, sometimes we allow our adrenal glands to run our lives, and that's not how that's supposed to work.
Yeah, and feel isn't I think this saying is what, "You can't eat an elephant in one bite," like, you have to
Yeah,
the
you
way
have to
you
do
eat
it
an
at one bite at you have to do one bite at a time, just little
one
bits.
bite at a
You
time,
Yeah.
and that's the same with our businesses, and that's the same with the life that we live, and so, yeah, for me, I think the biggest boundary in terms of burnout is just really, really, really being sacred about my weekends, and then also having switched from in-person events to digital, like, my evenings are super sacred too. I
Yeah,
I
yeah.
don't know. I don't know about you. I'm, like, usually in pajama bottoms starting halfway through the
Absolutely.
day.
I'm in sweat bottoms right now. Yeah,
Yeah.
don't let the lipstick fool you. I have fuzzy pink slippers on, it's great.
Oh, that's those are the new high heels. That is so important, but
Yeah.
just recognizing, like, it's okay to be lazy, and I think you lived in New York too at a point, right?
I didn't live in New York, but I've spent some time there. I'm actually gonna be there in a couple weeks.
Okay, well, you know the New York energy, like, I feel like if you for me at least, when I moved from New York to San Francisco, stopping was really scary for me, like, "Oh, what do you mean? I'm not scheduled from 6 a.m. till 2 a.m.? Like, I'm a
What am I
bad
supposed to
person."
do? Am I moving forward if I'm not doing
Busy.
anything?
So,
Yeah.
the lack of busyness has become a boundary too.
Nice. Nice. I love that. I can learn a lot from you. I have good boundaries in some ways. In the busyness one, I need to work on that. I'm working on that boundary.
It's our culture though, like, we've been taught, it's kind of like, I hope I can say this, like a pissing contest
Yeah.
in a way, like, "How busy are you? Oh, you're that busy? Well, I'm this
I'm
busy."
more busy. You had 8
Mhm.
hours of meetings, I had 10 hours of meetings.
Yeah.
Like, "Oh, come on. Give me a
Yeah.
break."
Have you ever heard of JOMO, the joy of missing out?
No, I've never heard of JOMO. I want
Mhm.
JOMO.
JOMO, like, let's lean into JOMO a little bit more, where you go to a concert or you see someone at a concert and you're like, "That looks awesome. I hope they had a good time," versus, like, "I should be there."
Oh, man, the joy of missing out.
Mhm.
I love that. That's going in the show notes. Yes, I would love to have more JOMO. Yes,
Yeah.
I would love to miss out on a whole lot more, truthfully.
Lean
Love it.
into the JOMO. We had a concert planned for Friday, which I'm still kind of bummed because I, like, spent money for VIP tickets for my husband for his birthday, and
What
we
concert is
unfortunately
it?
had to miss. It was Wilco.
Oh, I don't know that. Is it a band?
They're it's a band that I mean, I don't know, he liked them growing up. You'd probably recognize a song or 2, but I hated the feeling of, like, having these tickets and not having anyone to take the tickets. So we ended up, giving the tickets to our new pediatrician, kind of as a
Oh,
bribe, but, kind of as a way to get her cell phone number too, but that was
you're like,
joy.
you now have the tickets, and also, is this cough normal?
Yes, 100%. So, anywho, that was a good JOMO. I was like, "There's so much joy in missing this, but it was worth it."
Yeah, exactly. I love that. Okay, another question. What are 3 pro tips from your area of expertise, so in networking and in business coaching and mommyhood, that will help our empire builders scale their businesses while enjoying their entrepreneur journey?
Mm. My first tip is that relationships take time, and we touched on that a little bit at the beginning, but just that a relationship isn't something that's supposed to flourish overnight, even though your company has flourished
I
in its
know.
name,
It's
but
amazing how people just sneak that in there.
yeah, just there's a little flourish in everything that you say, but that relationships definitely take time and they take patience, and I was talking to a friend about this today actually, just she's just launching her business and she's feeling impatient and she wants
Yes.
clients yesterday, and I had to explain to her for the first probably 2.5 years of my business, there was a lot of planting of seeds, basically. If you look at
Yes.
if you look at relationships as a garden, like there's planting of seeds, and not every single seed is going to sprout, but there's planting and there's watering and there's maintaining it and putting some fertilizer down, and then ultimately, hopefully, at one point you can enjoy the bounty that you've had from your seeds. And what that means to me, at least in terms of enjoying it, is being able to text you and be like, "Hey, I have a favor. Can I make an introduction for you?" Or, "Hey, I see you're connected to this person I want to be connected with. Do you mind helping me out?" And knowing that I've put enough investment in that relationship that that person will respond back to me immediately and be like,
Yeah.
"Absolutely, intro coming
Not,
your way."
"New phone, who dis?" You don't you don't
Exactly.
get that.
Exactly, and that's my number one piece of advice for anyone that's, like, wants to just be a general good human being, but also in their business, is just maintaining. And also, we're not Ubers, like, we're not all Uber on
No.
demand individuals, like, you there's this tit for tat, like, you're a part of 6 Degrees Society, and even you being a part of 6 Degrees Society kind of, like, gives you more inner circle access to me as a human being, where you're gonna when, you do ask me a question or you need something, like, I'm that much more likely to give a favor to you than to someone who is a random LinkedIn connection who sees I'm randomly
Yeah,
connected to this person and has never been
yeah,
to an event, you know?
yeah. It's actually because of 6 Degrees Society and the power that I've seen there. I've always been into relationships, but the power I've seen there that I as part of my 2022 plan was like, how I need to join at least 3 other networking groups
Mhm.
and participate because the power of relationships is huge. I love what you said about seeding. Okay, that was number 1. What
That's
did you
number
have what do you have to
Okay,
do? Let me do number 2.
number 2. Number 2 would be give more than you take, and
Mm,
it's a kind of the same as number 1 in a way, but I think that that element where people feel like, "Well, I just gave so much value on a call, and they didn't book me," and they feel resentful of that, or they feel like
no.
they gave more advice than the other person. I always like to come from a place of providing more generosity than feeling as if I'm the one walking away with a full basket full of goodies.
Right.
Um, so it also it um, might be a psychological thing, but then I have the power of then asking for a favor when I need one.
Right. I mean, that's real, Emily.
Mhm,
Like you are banking it, but at the same time, there's a reward I think that comes on both sides, whether it's I'm giving or I'm receiving, and the cycle of abundance relies on both. So
mhm,
if it's not your time to receive right now, keep giving because that receiving is it's on its way, and you just have to
exactly.
trust the process.
Which brings me to my third tip, which is have something ready to ask for when someone does ask, "How can I help you?" A
Oh, that's good.
and I have been that jerk who's been like, I don't need help. What are you talking? I'm great. I'm amazing." And I sucked at asking for I sucked at receiving help because it made me weak, and I felt like I have more to give than I do to take. And but I've learned once you have that thing that you're ready to ask for at every meeting, so when someone, also a good conversationalist or a good networker, will hopefully ask you this question, and I call it like having your flag ready to fly. So that might be, yeah, I'm looking for more podcasting opportunities, or I'm looking for more speakers for our event programs that are like this. I'm looking for, introductions for people for my new course that's coming out, like, but being very specific about it. And then a bonus tactic, if you really are a rock star, is following up with them and getting their email and giving them a
Mm,
pre-written email with that ask. So
yes.
it's a no-brainer when they're sitting next to someone at a dinner party who is looking for a business coach. They can just boop boop make a connection, and it takes them 2 seconds versus 20 minutes writing a bio about you.
Wow, that is impressive. That's impressive. That's actually very similar when I talk to people in service-based industries, and I'm like, "Well, are you wanting to get on someone's preferred vendor list?" Well, if you do, make it easy for them to sell. Give them all the collateral that all they need to do is hand
Yes.
over to their clients. Yes. I love that. I never thought to apply that same thing to networking.
Yeah.
Emily, networking guru, of
Oh, thank you.
course. Of course
I'm a
you would tell
Gemini.
us that.
came naturally to me. So I always forget that sometimes people are like, wait, this is hard. I'm like, no, it's not. Just the last thing, be a human, like be human first. And do you know how many amazing relationships I've developed with like very prominent people by talking about like the TV shows we're watching, or I've had very interesting text exchanges about like menstruation problems, like, like
Yep,
normal human things.
normal human problems.
Yeah, that I'm like, "Oh, I tried this thing and this really worked for me for this period cramp," like you can be a
Yeah.
human still and do business with a person by being human first.
And I think that that is our one of the blessings of entrepreneurship as well. When you're in a corporate environment, often, especially women, I think, feel the need to really conform to this box that may or may not fit them. And then you go from corporate to being an entrepreneur and you accidentally bring that box with you. And you
Absolutely.
forget that you don't have to do that. You can do whatever you wanna do. That's the
Mhm.
point. So now that you're here, you get to make those decisions to show up fully as yourself, and I love that. I'm so glad you brought that up.
Yeah, I don't think talking about your sex life with your coworkers was ever appropriate, but, like,
No
I
problem.
definitely networking, whole difference, you're at
Whole
an event
different
of
scenario.
sexuality, bring it
Whole
up.
different scenario, and then you might finally find your answers to your cramp pains. Who knows? Closed mouths don't get fed.
Exactly.
Next question for you, my friend. How do you celebrate, protect, and manage your energy, especially during periods of growth, or in particularly for you, periods of large change like popping a baby out of your vagina?
I definitely celebrated after I popped like, my husband says that after I popped him out, he was like, "You weren't looking at him, you were like, 'Yes, I
I
did
did
it.'"
it.
I was more proud of me, I'm not gonna lie. I was very like, "I just did this. This is insane."
Well, I mean, you'll be proud of him later, but technically at this point in time, he's done nothing yet.
He's done
Like, as
nothing.
soon as he comes out, that was all you, baby. That
It was
was
a
all
free
you.
ride down a slippery slide. Yeah, celebrating is good. Celebrating is so fascinating, and I'm happy you bring this up because I feel like the feeling of celebrating has changed so much over time. Like, I remember my very first events or really successful collaborations where I felt like I would be high and reverberating for days at a time. Like, it truly was a full body experience. But then with more of those experiences, I think what sucks, and it's that there's no perfection here. It was just like, oh, that was great. When's my next feature in Forbes? Or, it was always it was hard for me to stop and recognize, like, this is actually a big deal, sit in it for a little bit without just chasing the next thing that is the next big deal. So, it definitely has changed, and the feeling has changed because I think at the beginning of my business, I've had my business now. I started it in 2014 as a side hustle. It became a
Mhm.
full-time hustle in 2016. So I'm going on like 5 years. Oh, yeah.
Wow.
Oh my god, 5
Congratulations.
5 years full time, thank you, and, I cannot still can't believe it, truthfully. I'm like, I think I've been out of corporate longer than I was in corporate, which is weird to think
Wow.
about.
That's
Yeah,
cool.
yeah, weird. Yeah, and cool. But I think one of the things that had happened was that I my identity was so linked up to my business for the first few years. So every review, anything, like, negative, anything positive, I felt so strongly, and then
Mm.
now I feel it, but I don't necessarily it doesn't have the same weight and value that it did before. And I think I feel sometimes more pride in, like, doing nothing, or I feel more pride in those moments of JOMO, but I also think it's a stage of life that we're in, where I used to get so caught up in, like, the accolades that I feel it, but I also feel so proud of the people that I surround myself with. Like, whenever I get an email from a client and it's a win, or they're telling me something, like, I feel lit up more than sometimes I feel lit up by myself.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing. I've felt that as well. I felt that as well. So we have 2 more questions, and I want to be mindful of your time. So we're gonna see if we can get these 2 questions in 5 minutes because you have a very important customer that needs your attention. The
He
baby.
might join us. He might join us and give
He
his own
might join us.
answer.
Okay, so the first part of the first question is that there is no magic bullet to success. And what has
Mm.
been the number one piece of advice you would give your past self, the version of you who existed about a year after starting your business?
Be confident in pricing right out of the gate.
Oh, say it again for the people in the back, Emily.
Be
Oh,
confident in
that's a good
pricing
one.
and charging your friends. I felt terrible charging my friends. I think my tickets were like 25 bucks each, and I felt like I was robbing them. I was a terrible person. Why wasn't this free? Blah 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 blah. And I so wish I had felt confident in setting that price from the beginning. Yeah, from all of my friends, from business coaching, for all of those things, and just knowing my worth, and then knowing I wish I had had someone even in my corporate career who had sat down with me and been like, "Let's practice, like, money. Let's practice what money looks like. Let's get really into it," because I think that was the biggest learning curve for me, was being like, "Oh my god, $100,000. This is so scary. I can't imagine." Yeah, and now
And
you're
then
like,
you
"Well,
get it and you're like, "Oh, that was nice. That's
that was
cool."
nice, and why did I wait for that for so long, and why did I the last thing I'll say, and I know I'm very verbose at times, but
No,
there's
I love
something
everything coming out of your mouth. Keep talking.
there's something that, like, I felt that I would have to hold myself back to receive rewards in a way. So I'm like, "Oh, I'm not worthy of driving a Mercedes Benz because I haven't made enough money to get to this place," or "I'm not worthy of taking said vacation because I haven't earned amount of dollars," or whatever it would be. And I feel like that is some work that needs to be handled really at the beginning of your business, because while it feels like entitlement, it really will help you in the confidence you exude out into the world.
You literally spoke into my soul. So I do
I
have a Mercedes and I love my
do
Mercedes. And
too.
we're on our second round of Mercedes. But before, my husband and I were sharing a 2010 Toyota RAV4. And we literally drove it into the wheels, like fell off, like the ball bearings in the wheels were falling off. And I had this friend named Celeste who's an entrepreneur and just a bright light, and she had just bought a C class, which for me, I was like, I didn't know CE, I didn't know. It just seemed like a Mercedes and it seemed expensive. And I said, Celeste, are you sure? Like, what are you doing? She goes, yeah, I can barely afford it. And but she's like, but if I need to push myself, I'm not giving up this car. This is my car. So she said, I will work to be able to afford this car and be able to afford two, three, next level, whatever I want. And she did. So then when the wheels fell off of my car
Literally.
that we were sharing, my husband was like, "We're getting a Mercedes." And I was like terrified. And we did. And we got it. And we could afford a little, I think a little bit more, but it still was terrifying. And then we got two. And then I was like, oh, we can do this. And then it felt like, no, this is what who I am, what I do. I deserve this. I'm worthy of this. And it kicks it up a notch. So I don't think neither Emily or I are suggesting that Mercedes for everybody. Like, go out and get yourself a Mercedes and your problems will be solved. But it's amazing how your worth gets so
Mhm.
wrapped up in random things, and you need sometimes that visible thing outside that says, "No, girl, you're worth this."
You're worth a Mercedes. I literally, when my husband was like, I want a Mercedes. I was like, why? We need a Honda Civic. It has better mileage. It has this. And he's like, I deserve this first and foremost, because I'll be driving an hour every day. And even him saying that, like, gave me permission to feel it. And then, like, when I get into the car, it's a used Mercedes, like 2016, but it's still a fucking Mercedes. And
Still a
so
Mercedes.
then, yeah. And then you're able to, yeah, there was that, like, leveling up feeling, like, "Well, I wanna dress like I drive a Mercedes too," and
Yeah.
it's residual. So I
I want
agree.
my life to feel like this. I wanna treat myself
Yeah,
well.
exactly.
When are you planning to start doing that?
When you retire, please
Yeah.
don't even, that's a whole different conversation, because
Yeah, no.
when people
And
retire.
we unfortunately, I could talk to you for
I know.
long extensive period of time, but I'm going to get now to my final question of you for the main content of this episode, which is, what would your life and business look like if you trusted completely? And this is our journal prompt question. So for everybody that's
Mm.
listening, I encourage you to answer this question for yourself as well. What would your life and business look like if you trusted completely?
Mm. Well, there would be a vineyard involved, so that's one of the
Ooh.
things, and a view of a vineyard with an inside pool. It would be it would be this aspect of not having to work as hard as I sometimes feel like I need to work, even though I know I don't need to work as hard as I do push myself to work, and really, really, really giving myself again, I think I'm way ahead of the curve with boundaries and whatnot, but just giving myself that grace to be able to be like, screw it, I'm taking this entire week off and really, really, really owning my time in a way that I don't think I've properly done in the past.
Yeah, that is beautiful, and with the vineyard and the
With a
pool,
vineyard
just call me
and the
over,
pool.
I will be right there.
Basically, the One Hope Winery, if you've ever gone there, they're in St. Helena, they have a house that a friend is a founder, and so I was able to, like, get a tour of the house, and every time I visualize, like, what my future house looks like, it is this house, and it has, like, the courtyard is the pool, and it's overlooking a vineyard, and the mountains are in the background, and I'm like, "Yes, yes, yeah." Oh, and there's a fireplace nearby.
Oh,
Done.
wow, this just keeps getting better and better.
Yeah, I'll send you pictures, it's gorgeous.
Please do.
Yeah.
Please do. Well, thank you for joining us. Please let everybody know where they can find you, where they can learn more about 6 Degrees Society. Tell the people all the things.
Tell the people. Well, first and foremost, thank you so much for having me and asking such incredible questions. And for our listeners, please join me at 6degreessociety.com. I would love to invite you as a guest. You can use code Emily Merrell, Merrell, and attend your first event on me as my guest. And then follow along on Instagram. We're 6_degrees_society, or my personal is Emily A. Merrell, and you can learn more about me and message me with any questions you have. I love them.
I only will allow people to follow you if you plan on posting baby pictures. Are you planning to post baby
Oh, yeah. Oh,
pictures?
I posted my first baby reel today. It was the best viewed reel I've ever had in my entire life. It is
Oh
pure
my
nonsense. So if you
I haven't been on Reels yet, but I know what I'm doing when we end this recording.
if you
So if
want some
nothing else, just
cuteness,
go
you
follow
can
Emily
yeah.
for cute baby reels. That's it. That's what it boils
Cute baby reels. My future business is pimping out my child.
That's so awesome. Well, thank you again, and thank you to all of our listeners for joining us today on the Flourishing Entrepreneur Podcast. I'm your host, Alea Harris, and I wish you lots of love, light, and abundance. Bye for now.
This episode is brought to you by Bioenergetic Business Coaching by Flourish Marketing. Do you wake up feeling tired? You can't build your empire if you're cranky and exhausted. If you're fed up with fighting a losing battle against the burnout monster, it's time to fix the root causes of your issues and get aligned. Turn up the wattage on your glow and cash flow with effective business strategies. Bioenergetic Business Coaching is for growth-getting entrepreneurs who know they need to make a change to see better results and reach their goals. If you want to unblock your energy and unleash abundance, head to www.flourishmarketing.co/coaching to become a client. Now's your chance to step into the role of CEO, Chief Energy Officer, and flourish in business and life. Go to www.flourishmarketing.co/coaching to get started.
Wow, Emily was so amazing, insightful. She was graceful. I love talking to her every time I get the opportunity. I also finally have a new word, JOMO, the joy of missing out. I just love that. So instead of FOMO, the fear of missing out, it's the joy of missing out, realizing that you don't need to do everything and be everywhere. And you can see someone having fun and be like, wow, I just want them to have the best time. I'm over here doing something else, something that uplifts me and fills my soul up or moves me and my life forward. And I love that. She also talked about, being the networking guru that she is, the power of relationships, and that relationships don't happen overnight. Just like if you were going to grow some tomatoes or some mint in your garden, you plant the seed and you wait. You could sit there and wait every day, or you could keep planting seeds and keep cultivating and keep moving forward, because eventually and you trust that that seed will sprout. And then you go ahead and you water your garden until you are able to truly experience the fruits of your labor. I appreciated that insight from Emily so much. If you want to learn more about how you can recalibrate to maybe get a little bit more patience and maybe have a little bit more boundary setting in your life, make sure you download the recalibration guide at www.flourishmarketing.co/recalibrate. If you're not even sure what you need to recalibrate, make sure you go and take the quiz at flourishmarketing.co/quiz-BEBC. That's flourishmarketing.co/quiz-BEBC, so that you can understand what you need to focus on to rein your energy back in, reclaim your time, and unleash your abundance. Thank you again for an amazing episode. I hope that you enjoyed it as much as I enjoyed you listening. And I'll be sure to see you right back here every Wednesday for our next episode of the Flourishing Entrepreneur Podcast. Bye for now.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Flourishing Entrepreneur Podcast with Alea Harris. Dive into the show notes at www.flourishmarketing.co/podcast and connect with Alea at Flourishing Entrepreneur on Instagram. Vibing with what you hear? Leave a 5-star review to spread the love, and be sure to click subscribe. From the entire Flourish Marketing team, we wish you love, light, and abundance. See you next time.